If you're into game dev content, stick around. I'm currently trying to build a full game in just 1 week. Now, quick disclaimer. Until I get my hands on a proper mic, you'll have to bear with this Microsoft sample voice. That means there will probably be issues if I ever need to say an exotic name or anything like that. Also, I'm not spending a single cent on this project. No paid assets, and in fact no free assets either. The only thing I'll be downloading are the sound effects and soundtracks. The rest will be made from scratch. Let's see if I can come up with something at least halfway decent. As of now, it's August 1st, 11:30 p.m. I started this challenge on July 30th at 12:20 p.m., so I've got about 4 days left. So far, so good, at least I think. As for the concept, I decided to go with something involving planets, as you can see here. I've set up a few little agents, and those blue lines? That's the pathfinding visualizer. Not sure if I should dive deep into the logic behind it. Let me know in the comments if you're into that kind of thing. Depends if this reaches more fellow devs or indie game fans. Either way, just know it was a pain in the ass. But hey, it works. The big sphere is the planet. It pulls in certain objects with a gravity-like force. I've also scattered some primitive trees around to give it a bit of life. If you have feature ideas, drop them in the comments. If they seem doable, I'll try to implement them. I always struggle with coming up with ideas anyway. So hey, win-win. Alright, so you already know I had to do a little stress test to make sure that the pathfinding wasn't too expensive when we have more than a handful of agents. And then after that I decided to move on to the hunter and prey mechanic. So essentially, I wanted some of the agents to have a target and chase them. It's actually very easy to do when you're working on a flat world. However, here, I ran into a whole lot of issues that pushed the boundaries of my patience. I'll tell you that much. Anyway, see here the orange guy with a big nose is chasing an unsuspecting target. So careless and innocent. Although right now there's not much to care about since there is no health system yet. So everybody is somewhat invincible. I've also added to that explosion VFX, which is probably overkill, but I'm proud of it, so it stays for now. Deal with it. Also, as you can see, some agents just bounce around. That's the sign that my movement system needs some improvements. Or I could pretend that it's a feature that I've made on purpose and definitely not a bug. We'll see. And by the way, I probably should have explained that earlier. I've made a script that allows me to rotate the camera around the planet. I'm not sure if I've already implemented the zoom in and zoom out functionality on the clip you're watching right now, but it's not a big deal. Moving on to the next point, you can see a second planet in the background, and you've probably noticed that it's stationary. I'm not sure if I have footage for it, but essentially I have tried to implement a planet rotation system, but let me tell you, things got really glitchy. Essentially, the objects are moving using a regibody and the accompanied velocity. However, the planet rotation messes up their velocity. In real life, as the planet moves, we inherit its velocity, so we don't feel it. However, I have not managed to make it work here. Next, we're getting into the fun stuff. I decided to add a spaceship, although what you've just witnessed looks more like something that could get me a strike or demonetization. But let's all be very civil, mature, and respectful. I'm sure you would have never even thought about it if I had not brought it up. Now, how does this look? Much better, isn't it? Nothing that would get a classroom of 13-year-olds to start making all kinds of predictable jokes or anything like that. Who? And now look at this. I've even added a cockpit. Go ahead and insert all your jokes here so that it can be detached from the shaft. Go ahead and insert the rest of the jokes here, like real spacecrafts do. I'm a pretty humble guy, but I think I deserve my flowers here. It's really some great work considering that I only used Unity's default shapes. Yup, everything you see here are just a bunch of spheres, cylinders, and cubes that I've stretched and mashed together. Now we gotta make this space shaft take off, add some VFX for the flames, and we'll be good to go. I've also worked on a little smoke trail so that the agents can look like they're going very fast, even though they're clearly struggling. I'm actually not sure of what I should do with it, because I think that having every single one of them using the VFX whenever they start moving is a little over the top. Like, let's be real, it was a great idea, born from my fantastic and humble mind, that I've definitely not stolen from hundreds of other games out there. But the question is it really necessary? Man, we'll see. For now, it looks kind of fun, I think. Back to the spaceship, I added a boolean that defines if the ship should take off or not. Right now, there is no fuel mechanic. I'm just testing to see if it works. Also, the planet is responsible for making the objects align properly. Without that specific function, all these little people would be spinning uncontrollably. Now that I think of it, I feel like I change subjects a little too often, so let's get back to the rocket. I have given it a variable that defines the maximum force the boosters can apply, which will be used to get the ship out of orbit. I was actually playing around with the amount of force necessary to get out of orbit and figured I needed the force to be at least 9.8 specifically, which is actually a bit embarrassing because you see, I'm not sure how high school works in America, but in France, where I grew up, we had quite a lot of physics classes and we learn a lot about gravity. Now the thing is that the Earth's gravitational pull is 9.8 meters per second squared, and so I used that value when creating the planet's gravity. All of this to say that I should have known that the rocket would need exactly 9.8 of force to actually fight back the gravity of the planet, but instead I spent about an hour playing around, trying to find the specific value needed. Anyway, that was a lot of yapping. You can see here that our little rocket and its passengers took off and is now heading out of the system. You know what? Good for them. This little planet was starting to get overcrowded anyway. Hopefully they can start over somewhere else, you know? What's that saying again? A small step for a man, but a giant step for humanity, or something like that. Well, these are definitely not humans, but you get the idea. Now this is the biggest stress test yet. The FPS were at about 25, if not less than that. I actually added the health mechanic. So now whenever someone's health is equal or less than 0, gravity will just let go of them. They will be carried away by their current momentum and then vanish into space. But anyways, I've added a bunch of planets, each one having a bunch of inhabitants. Then I launched the rocket ship into space once again to see if any of the planets would be able to catch it using their gravitational fields. That didn't quite work, as we'll see later, but that's not a problem. I actually found a workaround later on. Now, if our space shaft could actually leave the planet's orbit, that would be great. Any second now. Just be a little patient. Oh, come on. What about the 9.8 units of force I gave you, tailored specifically for the planet's gravitational pull? I really bothered to do all of that work, just for you to slam your rear end back into the planet? And by the way, that's cheating. No spaceship launches itself into space by bouncing off of the ground. This is why I also need to implement a damage system for the vehicles. We'll see how well they can just bounce on a planet to get some momentum after I implement a damage system to keep these bad boys in check. But for now, as long as this little guy manages to get out of orbit, we should be good. Well, I guess we're not good. What the hell is that? You know what? I'm going to cheat too. Watch this. And just like that, our lovely shaft is gone. Don't be sad. It was its destiny. Also, I'll definitely need to find a way to bring these FPS back up. I'm not sure what I'll do just yet, but you best believe these 30 frames per second ain't gonna cut it. Now I'd like to tell you that the rocket will smash into this planet, but unfortunately, I haven't implemented this feature yet, so for now you'll have to accept that it's just gone without causing too much chaos. But worry not, the chaos is definitely on my checklist. Alright, what do we have over here? Okay, so I think this is where I tried to implement the rotation of the planet. And if I remember correctly, one of the issues was that the agents and ships on the planet were essentially being dragged by the planet. The spaceship can hardly take off because the trees are holding onto it, as you can see. The pathfinding is a bit messed up as well, and honestly it took me about a day to figure out, and it was absolutely not pleasant experience, so I don't think I'll dive back into it. Anyways, that's the reason why I did not do anything with that planet rotation feature. Too much needs to change for this to work, and I only have 7 days. Also here, for those of you who have an Unity background, making the space shift the child of the planet also caused a little glitch, as the planet rotating also rotates the ship. That is not too hard to fix if we're being honest, but it doesn't matter since I've already decided to scrap the idea. Alright, now we're getting into the cockpit. I have added a new functionality to the spaceship. When it leaves orbit, it deactivates and then detaches from the cockpit. The cockpit will then be able to move on its own. The camera will also follow the said cockpit instead of being stuck on the planet. Additionally, I've added controls to the cockpit and the boosters. The vehicles can now rotate, while previously the spaceship would just go straight up, and that was it. Still no fuel and health systems for the ships yet, but they come later. Additionally, maneuvering the spaceship is quite difficult, so I've made a little change so that when we move the camera around, the time stops. This should give you more freedom to move around. I think a core mechanic will be the space travel. Some ships will have a detachable section, like this one, and you'll have to land without destroying it too much, or else you'll need more resources to repair it. It's pretty basic, but I'm looking forward to it. The planet's gravity will pull the ships quite hard, and as you can see in this clip, it is in fact quite hard to set the ship properly for it to land without crashing into the planet. I have actually found a workaround that. But anyway, that will be it for today. It is Saturday 2 a.m. at the time I am wrapping this up. I'm leaving you with some gameplay footage. The last change I've made here is adding a functionality that allows you to slow down while in space, and another one to turn towards a planet by clicking on it. There's in fact a bit more than that, but I forgot to record it, and I'm feeling sleepy, so that will be it. CYA.